The Acolyte showrunner is reimagining balance in the Force. What? Quote, if you are unbalanced, the Force cannot protect you. Um, does that sound like you don't know what the heck you're talking about? Because it just, well, it makes me kind of think about that line in Force Awakens.
That's not how the Force works.
Yeah. Do you know what you're doing over there at Lucasfilm? Well, we just did a story the other day. Star Wars recover? Can Disney Star Wars recover? And if they keep on doing stuff like this, no, it cannot. Because it sounds like you're just trying to add your own stuff into the lore that will overwrite already what's established with the lore. If you are unbalanced, the Force cannot. That's not how the Force works, man. Headland here teases the need for one to be balanced with the Force in order to protect the user in the upcoming. Yeah, no, no. So maybe I'm taking the quote out of context, but on the surface, PR wise, you're just making the fans angry here. And stop doing that, Disney. Stop doing stuff that makes the fans angry. And people will say, well, James, it's just Star Wars. No matter what you're going to do, you're going to make people angry. You make people. George Lucas himself made people angry with the prequels, but the prequels have won an audience over, guys. They're not as hated as much as people thought that they were. Um, in the early days on YouTube and stuff, Red Letter Media capitalized on the older generations, kind of like, ugh. But you know those criticisms of that he made, Red Letter Media, they don't really stand the time. The stand the tale of time. I don't know. They just won't stand up to scrutiny anymore. It's kind of like all the points are dated that are in those videos. It's just funny to see him have like this dreamlike scenario of being a serial killer in his little shorts. But whatever. Um, honestly, the way I look at it is there is no light without darkness, she says, quote, no good without bad. So to me, and this might be just a personal thing, well, it sure sounds like it, the Force is about balance. Uh, actually, I would say no. It's not just a Marvel superpower. The Force sensitive are using telekinesis because they're special, powerful people. No, that's not what Qui Gon would think, and that's not Qui Gon would never say that because out of all what the genius of what Lucas did with Qui Gon is that he was telling us Qui Gon seems to be the only Jedi out of all the Master Jedi that seem to understand how the Force really works. Everybody thinks that Yoda was this great Grand Master, but Yoda is just as culpable for allowing all of the bad things to happen to the Jedi because of his old stubborn ways. That's how well crafted the prequel stories were. It's because they've achieved balance. No, they have not. They have not. They were unbalanced. That's how the dark side was able to rise. As Yoda says, my ally is the Force. So the idea of a separation from that was really interesting. If you are unbalanced, the Force cannot protect you. Well, then you're like, you just do you not understand this? Yes, Yoda was wise in a lot of things, but his perspective of things was like that was the point. His hubris. He like by the whole definition of it, Yoda was not balanced. He thought that he was, and that's what allowed the dark side to rise. And my argument, my retort to the Force is about balance. I would say the Force is more about like a cycles. There's always going to be dark side. There's always going to be light side, and it just goes over and over and over again because you can't have one without the other. That's the point of it. So if you are unbalanced, the Force cannot protect you. Um, are you saying that all the Sith were like not being able to be protected by the Force? Like, what are you saying exactly with that? It sounds like you've had this idea of your own that you're trying to inject onto the Force, and I've made arguments about that before. Like, people have these own ideas of their stories, and they're like, I can maybe make that into a Star Wars thing with a little bit of finagling. It's like, no, this is just going to make people angry. Um, yeah, so I don't buy it. I don't like it. The Acolyte. Um, this is not a good direction to go in. So I'm not on board with that. Um, at this point, guys, I don't know what's going to save Star Wars. I know that there's some stories going around there that saying that George Lucas himself is going to make a return to Star Wars, but those reports, I haven't been able to been like substantiate with any kind of like serious source. It's only sort of like hearsay as of right now. So I'll embellish that when it gets a little bit more substantial. Um, like even if he did come back, like I said in my little video the other day, even if he does come back, or even if you use his stories and make those while he's here, guys, utilize him, and don't worry if it offends people who really like Star Wars 7, 8, and 9, because they'll still have those movies. You can still have those movies, but we're also going to make like an Elseworlds. This is what could have happened from George Lucas's stories, movies. That's what I was trying to drive home. Make those. The reports were saying that he wants to go back and go to the point where the Jedi were starting to learn, or like force sensitive people were trying to craft it into like a martial arts Jedi discipline kind of thing. And if George wants to do that, then fine. I'd be on board with that too. But yeah, I'm not on board with those retcons. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Alien Romulus.